First of all, it's a wonderful, sort of an experience to be here in this place, Huddle Global. I think this has been the 4th or 5th huddle that I've been participating. So every year the event is scaling up very well also. So cheers to the entire KCM team for that. So coming back to our topic for the day, how GCCs empower the global startup ecosystem and the innovation ecosystem in this part of the world, or specifically with respect to emerging markets. So to set a little bit of a context, if any of you trace the journey of Indian IT innovation ecosystem, initially it started as sort of an outsourcing setups, moved into shared service space, and then right now the latest paradigm is global capability centers. So basically the narrative has changed from a cost basis to a value creation basis. From that perspective, we have a set of 3 eminent panelists here who are handling various roles in GCCs. So let's begin the day. So let's do a quick round of intro with each one of you. If you can just introduce yourself, which company that you are coming from, and what is the role that you are doing in a GCC context. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for inviting me to Huddle 2024. Happy to be here. So my name is Rathnaprabha. I manage innovation for India and Asia for Morgan Stanley. And Morgan Stanley is a top bank in the United States, having global business across the world. And we are a major player in investment banking, in wealth management, and institutional security services. So for myself, my role is to manage innovation. So which, as part of that, what I really do is I manage working with the ecosystem. With startups, I manage innovation programs within the bank for India and Asia, and also work as a global role managing process efficiency for the bank.
Thanks. Manish?
Yeah, this is Manish, and I am into the industry in the IT, predominantly the product industry for last more than 2 decades. So the last probably 10 years or 12 years journey with Somnoware Healthcare Systems, we are into sleep disorder workflow management area. And we started in a startup journey based out in Kerala, Trivandrum. Never as he was talking about that, we started the entire engineering process based out of Kerala and Trivandrum specifically. 2023, we kind of got acquired by ResMed. ResMed is the leaders in CPAP, BiPAP machine, and connected cloud applications, and touching the larger people to make them sleep better and live better. So that is the goal. So in terms of GCC, we have our own tech hub in Bangalore, and we have always been working closely with the startup, and in fact, our 2030 strategy also talks about working closely with the startup ecosystem, and where we can actually collaborate and build a better world for the people. So it has always been our goal.
Good afternoon. I am Anil from Giant Eagle. Giant Eagle is a North American retail e-commerce, 180-year-old based in Pittsburgh, predominantly supermarket, grocery and pharmacy business. So in Bangalore, we started as a captive center 4 years ago, and we are expanding across tech and non-tech functions, shared services, as well as global capabilities. In the industry, I'm with almost 18 years across technology, engineering, and operations functions. And looking forward for the great session.
So Rathnaprabha ma'am, let me start with you. So Morgan Stanley, the global big 5 or top 5 banks in the world, investment banks in the world, typically banks have at least in the startup community, there is a lot of perception that banks are a lot of this legacy organization. Like you operate a lot on these mainframe systems, this, that, etc., but not so open to startups. So how that narrative has changed over the years, where Morgan Stanley's and in general the BFSI industry. How open are you now with respect to the startup innovation ecosystem from a GCC perspective? If you can just throw a little bit of light on that.
Sure. I agree to what you perceive about Morgan Stanley and all the other banks, because we are really large banks, global banks, and we are highly regulated. I think I would like to underline that one of the most regulated industries would be the banking industry, and I represent the banking industry when I share my opinion with you. So definitely I think we have a lot of legacy systems. We still have mainframes, and that's partially because of the amount of data we have, the amount of data that we need to protect, and it's been easier over a period of time to be on the mainframe. So that's changing, as you rightly mentioned, that's changing, and we intentionally are changing only where we want to change. So that also means that we are modernizing our infrastructure, we are modernizing our systems and applications, and as part of the modernization journey, there's a lot that we do internally, and there's a lot that we depend on for our agility and speed and go-to-market that we interact with the startup ecosystem. And when we say startup ecosystem, there are a lot of strong partnerships that we have with, I would say, startups who are now large companies. And genuinely, we are interested in working with the startup ecosystem to understand what modern technologies can impact our line of business positively, where we can learn and where we can change rapidly. I think that's where our dependency is on the startup ecosystem. And while I say that, I also have a strong conviction that large banks are modernizing at a pace where we will not be able to handle everything internally. And hence, the ecosystem that we work with help us bring in that change at the pace at which we want our business to change, at the business and the impact that we want to make on customers, and that is possible only by working with the ecosystem.
Great to hear that. I really like that point of we won't be able to do everything. You need to collaborate. You need to connect with the local ecosystem. You need to take learnings from that, etc. So from that tangent, I'd like to ask Manish, from a talent perspective, of course, no organization can have the entire in-house talent. You need a mix of in-house as well as you need this, external talent ecosystem, etc. And that is where the entire concept of open innovation comes in, wherein organizations open up the innovation space for the startups to come and innovate. So from a talent perspective, what is your view with respect to the talent that is there in the GCC landscape vis-a-vis what is the talent that is there in the startup landscape, and how do you see that cross-pollination happening, like ideas getting pitched, or even the other way, some of the GCC's employees starting up startups? So do you see a lot of that happening from a talent basis?
Of course, it's a very, very important point. I just need to go back, to share some of my experience. During the COVID time, right? Earlier it was all about engineering, product management, collaboration. It has to be in the same place. Everything has to be in-house so that they can work together, kind of thing. So with COVID coming in place, that goes out of the window. And then we started kind of like opening it up. Now, the biggest advantage of the startup ecosystem is there are many companies who is actually kind of in the startup space who is actually working with the talents. And we actually it is easier for us to get to talk to them and make them understand what it makes the speed and accuracy and the product mindset. So we actually, when when we, right now also, our combination is like in-house engineers, we have probably 60%, but 40% we work with the external consultants. So they are based across India. I mean, you know, a person sitting in the Bihar, a person sitting in the Gujarat, across India we have people working from their home and they're supporting us. And as Ratna said that, you know, we are also not less regulated because we are into the healthcare tech. I mean, and especially when dealing with our primary market is US. I mean, so obviously it is highly regulated market. I mean, in spite of all those things, we are able to pull it up because the ecosystem and the thought process, we never had to really went and tell them, hey, it is a startup, you need to, you know, we just need to make sure that, you know, people have that innovation mindset. We don't want a member who is just kind of like, you know, you give something and they develop something and give it back to us. We want them to participate in the grooming session, product thinking session, everything. So that innovation, I think we got the taste during the COVID, and we are still carrying it out. I mean, no change to it. So obviously, I mean, this ecosystem had made a lot of significant effort, impact on the talent side in this regard.
So from that talent perspective, Anil, taking that perspective into your retail industry, Giant Eagle, not many may be familiar with that name, but people are familiar with Walmart, Costco, and Amazon. But let me tell you one interesting thing about this retail space and Kerala. So before that, Amazon Go, that's what that called, wherein you can walk into the storeroom and, the shop and come out.
Self-checkout.
A self-checkout sort of a thing. So before that was even introduced in Amazon, there was some startup in Cochin, I forgot its name, that had tried it out, and I think they sold it off to somebody, and this was in 2018-19 timeframe, etc. So I just wanted to know, like, from your retail industry, from your specific company or other, are there a lot of instances wherein you have, are there cases wherein you can share, wherein there are startups that you have worked with, specific cases, what kind of business aspects did you work with? Is it like a checkout, or is it like a loyalty, or is it anything? Like, what are the spaces in the retail landscape wherein you see a lot of startup corporate interaction that is happening in a GCC perspective?
Yeah. So thanks for the question, Ajith. It's very interesting topic. So, as you rightly mentioned, retail e-commerce is a space where a lot of public-private collaboration, and also basically the kind of operating model we are in is, we treat innovation as part of our, global strategy. Cannot be a siloed, initiative. So as a center of excellence, what we call, where we concentrate on building new capabilities. Talking about the point, other than self-checkout, there are a lot of retail tech and marketing technologies, right? We collaborate heavily, especially with startup incubators, especially in India also, wherein they are helping us to build more of a digital omni-channel experience for the customer, especially talking about the customer experience. That is very much key indicator for our retail segment. So other area is about adopting latest AI, ML, especially retail tech. It's all about how do we ensure the customer experience at the stores. We operate both physical and digital, right? So most of our business is driven at the physical stores. We have 2,000 stores across North America. So we have built certain digital omnichannel applications, especially starting from POS machine till locating where is the product, by leveraging IoTs and AR, VR. So those technologies are really helping us to meet the customer demands and how we ensure better experiences there. And in terms of collaborating with startups, especially in the retail media tech. Media tech, you might heard about that. So we have collaborated with one of the startup in the US. So they are helping us to, innovate how we, position the media space for our entire retail space. And then comes, of course, talent space. There are a lot of, RPO engagements we have, and also on the HR operation side. So we do collaborate a lot of, startups like in Bangalore we have so many, wherein they are helping us to, bring in that AI-driven models to, starting from screening candidate till onboarding and working on the overall entire HR business processing, right? So I think it is helping us to have a better, level of engagement with the technology plus, the talent, segment. So that way, I think there are a lot of innovations we have been going through, and most of the organizations, especially going through the digital transformation, right? So they face three major challenges, especially is in time to transform. So shrink in the time to transform due to lack of adoption of the automation or AI technologies. And next comes is lack of digital talent. So that is very much important challenge, important point. Whenever there are any new capabilities, we try to build outside of the headquarter. The last one is uncertain economic conditions. These are the major challenges, while we continue to innovate, align with our global strategies. So yeah, just to summarize, so innovation cannot be siloed. It's part of our global strategic initiatives.
Perfect. So from that perspective, I just wanted to ask the same question to all three of you. So if there is a startup that is here and they want to pitch to your organization, what are the channels that you have? Like, is it like you have a demo day or demand day sort of a thing happening, or do you have structured incubation programs, or what are the different models with which startups that are there here or elsewhere can pitch to your organization? The same question to all of you. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Ajith. So we are definitely open to work with the ecosystem heavily across the world. So we are encouraging startups in the US to work with us through our Tech Week model, where we conduct a Tech Week in the Silicon Valley twice in a year. And a similar model exists where twice in a year we are having a CTO Innovation Summit in India. We have a partner that we work with in Hong Kong, Japan, Shanghai, and Singapore, with whom we encourage startups to work with us. And EMEA as well, we have a similar model. So, so there are structured models through which startups can work with us in a week format, where we are working or continuously seeing which startups bring what capability to Morgan Stanley in that format. Now the other format is we have something called as a Tech Passport, where we are continuously evaluating Market 100, Market 300 type of profiles of startups, which means the startups who have the highest relevance to work with Morgan Stanley in short term, medium term. And then we analyze startups who have relevance to working with Morgan Stanley's business in a much longer time. So we categorize and look at these startups throughout the year in a continuous format. So for example, I see startup demos every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks organized by my team. And these are startups who bring in sometimes vertical AI capability, which means they have well-built AI models for a particular operational system. Just to throw examples: reconciliation, collateral management, type of, and then fraud management. Then we also see startups who are technical, who have technical depth, and they bring in capabilities, and we are very happy to see what capabilities startups bring to our business model. While we do that, we are constantly evaluating their ability to scale. Scale operationally with large banks like Morgan Stanley, and what internal capability that we have that can be enhanced by these startups, and simultaneously what unique dimensions do they bring to enhance our ability to increase our market cap, revenue, bring in efficiency to our bank, to bring in operational capabilities. So we are scanning the technical depth, domain depth, and unique capabilities, and we also throw challenges. Constantly we bring in our, when we interact with startups, we are giving our operational challenges, and we ask them, how can you help? It is not that we have not looked at internally our own capabilities, but we are also very happy to collaborate to see if we are able to go to the market faster. Because as I mentioned before, we completely know that it is not a wise decision to develop everything internally. It is not required. As long as we are able to bring in a product or a platform from the ecosystem and completely integrate it with ours, that integration capability is something that we look forward to, because we work with multiple vendors, and we are one of the organizations where we have integrated thousands of vendors. We have a spend of over $1 billion just in licenses, from large vendors. So we have no hesitation to do that as long as we are getting value. So from that perspective, startups can pitch to us regionally, wherever the regional heads of innovation are present. We are happy to introduce a startup to our respective business departments. At the same time, we are very happy to take Indian startups to work with us globally. That is one of the main functions that the innovation department like mine performs, where we are constantly evaluating the cost effectiveness of Indian startups. And most recently in October, I did a innovation summit in Mumbai, in our Mumbai office. We looked at 24 startups in 2 formats. One is the expo format, where employees were able to interact with them. The other format was to see a 1-hour pitch from these startups to our global leadership. We had 18 global tech MDs visit us just to participate and evaluate these startups, and we have a huge success rate of over 8 startups out of these 24 having POCs done with Morgan Stanley. So this format continues, and startups who have an Asia presence can enter through our Asia leeway, which is in Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai, or Tokyo offices, where the respective divisions, for example, compliance divisions, for example, marketing divisions, are happy to see what capabilities that these startups bring up and use it regionally first. And we have a success there, then we make sure that we bring them up globally. So a huge opportunity to work with us, definitely, through us, through the innovation department.
What we have done is we have actually recently released our 2030 strategy framework, and where the entire organization structure has been re-looked at. And specifically, we have initiated a vertical called incubation and growth. So the incubation and growth, the goal of this particular vertical is to, there are many things that, in the industry it happens, like doing hackathons and things like that, where we call people to, present the cases and things like that. But what we are actually doing is globally is our growth, incubation and growth team is actually going to the pitching centers, where the startups actually coming and they're doing their pitchings and participating in all those in the US and Singapore. Recently we covered 2. So that like we kind of find the ecosystem, synergies, and we could actually work together. So it's very recently started, and otherwise ResMed as an organization, they've been building their software capabilities through acquisitions. So obviously they've been working with a lot of startups, and from there they've been kind of finding the right players to work with them. So in India also, this incubation and growth team is actually based out in Bangalore, But since we have the offices in Kerala also, so we kind of like, expanding it. I mean, in India, we have like Bangalore, Delhi, and Chennai, Hyderabad. So all the locations we are continuously looking at the different startup ecosystems and how things are moving out. And recently, our chief strategy officer was also in the country, and we were having a discussion. So he was also saying that keep your eyes and ear open, and look out the startups wherever you see that there is a direct connect, or we can actually expand our portfolios. We should be actually open to welcome them on the and so with investment as well as acquisition. So both is on the card with this incubation and growth vertical that has been part of 2030 strategy, because the mission that we have set right now, we probably touch around 200 million patients globally. The 2030, we are actually kind of touching 500 million. So it's a stiff target, and without the technology and and moving fast, we won't be able to even go closer by that. So keeping that in mind, I think we are very, very proactive to work with the startup ecosystem.
Yeah, so when it comes to startup engagement, so we need to understand how we can co-create the value, right? There is saying that think global and do local, right? I think how do we accommodate the startup engagements in addition to the insider innovation, right? Insider innovation help us to bring in that domain expertise, and also help us to secure the intellectual property or anything to do with the data. So if you engage with a startup community practices, I think it's very much important how do we target low complex, high impact. I think we need to understand what problems we are going to solve with that engagement. So I think that's what I wanted to summarize.
So yeah, I mean, after one question, I'll just take a few questions from audience. So Rathnaprabha ma'am, one concluding question that I have to you is, typically, historically, Morgan Stanley would have seen the entire transition in India presence from being a small center to shared service, or probably the GCC. 10 years back when I was, in a couple of the large enterprise firms, the US headquarters used to see India only as a cost center. Has that narrative changed right now? Wherein do you see, I mean, is the, the way in which the US HQ looks into the India firm, is it more of like a profit center, or is it like a value addition center, or what is it that the HQ is looking into, and how the startups are driving that aspect?
I think it's a good question to finish our discussion. So definitely most of the GCCs are moving from a cost-driven to a value-driven model, and we are in the same boat. And in the last 10 years, we've been doing a lot of setups. For example, the India business itself, now we have set up in the Gift City. The way India business moves forward in bringing synergy to all the US-driven businesses to India and Asia, to the supporting setup that is created in the GCC across India and across Bangalore and Mumbai. The story that we are really driving is the value-driven story. The value that we're really creating through accountability, through the ownership of various systems that we bring in, the complete tech dependency on a few systems, completely driven from India. So when we do the resilience models, it is astonishing to see the amount of dependency that the global banks have on the India GCC setup. And following that model, even at Morgan Stanley, I think the focus, the strategy that we have for the GCC, how we are including innovation as part of the operational and strategic objectives, shows that not only are we driving innovation with startups from India and Asia, but the strategic partnerships that globally that we have, the same partnerships continue to thrive from a vendor base that we have globally in India as well. And the specific work that is being transitioned to India is at scale, is large. Sometimes we have end-to-end ownership of front office to back office system setup in India, and that is supported by the HR systems, the innovation systems, and all the horizontal setups that we have is completely present in India. And what the story is really driving to in the next 10 years, I think you spoke about the 10 years prior, and if I have to speak about the 10 years forward looking, what we're really envisioning is to see that Morgan Stanley in India and Asia, I speak for India and Asia, is driving a lot of work for the Asia ecosystem completely independently, and driving and doubling its revenue in the Asia ecosystem. Typically that's already in the vision. And what we're really trying to support as a GCC is to be able to provide the full bandwidth of support for our Asia business and our global business, and as an innovation ecosystem to be embedded in the collaboration that we bring from the ecosystem, and collectively between the vendors, startups and the India GCC, we are able to give a full-blown impact in terms of ability to drive customer experiences, doubling our customer base, providing the complete support in terms of development, technological development, driving the modernization, driving new system development, driving new capabilities and COEs, and probably even making a contribution that is unique from this ecosystem to drive a global business from India. So all of those setups are being envisioned, and actually in fact we are already on the way to doing these things from India.
Okay. So my concluding question to Manish is, from a talent perspective, like there are many, many firms over here. So when you scale up from a small, multinational setup to a full-fledged GCC kind of a model, I'm sure that there are enough HR people who are here also. So what is your guidance or sort of a, talent strategy that you would like to tell to them?
Yeah, I think the strategy that we followed significantly is we've actually kind of moved to the skill-based hiring pattern long-term back. I mean, we do value education, background and things like, it's not that we don't value it, but more than the education, I think I should take back that more than, but side by side, the skill-based hiring process that actually helps the ecosystem move very faster, because the skill are the key factor for bringing the success story for your organization. So hiring individuals, participating in the hiring process, working closely with the talent, work with their growth, simultaneously spend enough time and energy to make sure that they find their growth pattern inside the organization. So that is something which we have been following significantly, and one of these success metrics that I could say that in last 10 years of our operation, around 75% of our talent is actually kind of having a 7 to 8 years working thing with us, with the organization, which is kind of like, I think less than 0% of attrition. So I think that is the key aspect. Look the skill set and allocate your work allocation according to that. So that's one thing which we practiced and we had tasted success.
Cool. Anil, so final question to you. A GCC office, I wouldn't say like a Walmart, it's like a maybe 1 level or 2 level below Walmart, that's your size, like which you have moved in, I believe, quite recently in the last 5 years or so, right? GCC,
4 years.
4 years, yeah. So what has been your organization's GCC setup experience in India in that 4 years? How you have scaled up, and is there a chance that, most of the GCCs in India are coming in Bangalore or Hyderabad, but are there enough potential in ecosystems like Kerala or tier 2 ecosystems wherein you see a lot of potential for the GCCs also?
Yeah, I think looking at the other tier 3 or the ecosystem, right? It's about what is the value proposition, right? It's not only about the cost arbitrage centers, but also on certain local labor laws, and again comes into the tax benefits. I think looking at Bangalore, as you rightly mentioned, most of the GCs are now going outside of Bangalore, as Hyderabad, Pune, and all those, right? So I think there are several elements can be considered. One thing is about, are we operating in a place where we have good amount of tax benefits, SEZs, special economic zones, and then comes the people strategic mindset. So because most of the organizations being in this hybrid workplace model, restricting people to that you can't work outside of the office for several days. So I think those can be considered in terms of bringing a better framework for the GCC incubation outside of the headquarters.